What were you doing yesterday? For me, I was at a cafe reading a book most of the day. How about a week ago? Maybe you attended the TGIF meeting last week. How about a month ago? You may not be able to answer off the top of your head, but if you go through your photo album, you'll probably remember. For me, a month ago, I was still in Australia being attacked by birds. As we extend the time frame to a year, our memory starts getting murky. You may not even have access to the photos that you've taken a year ago. How about a decade ago, or a century ago, or even a millennium ago? What happened at the beginning of time itself? This was a question that was heatedly debated among Greek philosophers. Some philosophers believed that time is an illusion, a concept that people made up, and therefore there's no such thing as a beginning to time. Other philosophers believed that time is infinite, that all matter in the universe has always existed, and therefore it's impossible to trace time back to a single point of beginning. Yet another group of philosophers believed that everything in the universe, including time itself, was created by an immovable mover, and therefore there is such thing as a beginning to time. What do scientists say about this topic? Nowadays, scientists generally believe in the Big Bang Theory, which posits that there is a single event in time when everything in the universe exploded into existence, and that point of time marked the beginning of time. However, this begs the question of what existed before the Big Bang, or perhaps more importantly, what caused the Big Bang? How can everything in the universe suddenly exist if nothing existed before it? Before answering this question, I want to tell you a little story. This is the story of God, the God of the Bible, introducing himself to the world for the very first time. We've all heard of Moses. Moses was the man that God called to lead the people of Israel out of slavery from Egypt. Now, before Moses became the leader of the Israelites, he once had a rather intriguing encounter with God. According to the Bible, one day as Moses was minding his own business, he comes across a burning bush in the wilderness. As he approaches the burning bush to investigate the scene, he hears the voice of God speaking to him from the burning bush. As the story goes, God commanded Moses to confront the Pharaoh of Egypt, demanding that he release the people of Israel out of slavery from Egypt. Now, at this time, Moses was just an old man, average old man, so quite understandably, he was totally bewildered by this request. The modern equivalent of something like this is, imagine if God commanded Lester to go to the Chinese president and demand that he grant Taiwanese independence. Anyway, out of fear, Moses asks God this question. If I come to the people of Israel and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, what is his name? What shall I say to them? In response to this question, God says to Moses, Yehovah, this is what you are to say to the people of Israel. Yehovah has sent me to you. This is how we know that the name of God in the Bible is Yehovah, or in Chinese, Yehehua. However, if you look at the original Hebrew text, you'll discover that Yehovah, or YHVH, isn't a name at all. It's actually an abbreviation that, when translated to English, means, I am who I am. This is why, in the English version of the Bible, God says to Moses, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the people of Israel. I am has sent me to you. That's confusing, isn't it? What does God mean when he says, I am? Why wouldn't God just simply explain who he is? Let's think about that for a minute. If God has a name, any name at all, then that would mean someone else gave God that name, and therefore someone else preceded God, and God would not be God. For instance, if God was the God of thunder, that would mean thunder preceded God, and God would not be God. This is Zeus. Or, if God had to train his mind and body under a tree for 40 years in order to become like God, like Buddha, That means the mind and body preceded God, and God would not be God. If God had to become a particularly skilled swordsman and fight many battles and win, like Kuan Chen to become God, then that would mean weapons and warfare preceded God, and God would not be God. The reason why God introduces himself as I am is because there's simply no other way to describe him. I am implies that God simply is. I am implies that God has no origin. I am implies that nothing created God. I am implies that God is the immovable mover that the Greeks were talking about. That's why in the very first sentence of the Bible, in Genesis, it says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." Again, nothing preceded God, not even time itself. That's why, in the beginning, God was already there. Of course, this is a bold claim to make. The God of the Bible claims to be the I am, which implies superiority over all things in the universe. I am implies that God is greater than Pharaoh, greater than all other gods, and greater than time itself. Yet, this is the same God who set the Israelites free from slavery out of Egypt. Today, this same God wants to set you free too. Whether you believe in the Bible or not, or God or not, I want to invite you to explore the God of the Bible. Perhaps in time, you will no longer be shackled by your past, but look into the future with courage. Back to the Toastmasters.